The platform was cold and gray when the train rolled into Torino Porta Nuova. Around me, families reunited with laughter and open arms. Kids running to parents. Wives burying their faces into husbands' chests. Everyone had someone. Except me. My name is Renzo Mancini. I'm 48 years old, and for the last 4 years, I've been stationed on Mount Nyota, a dormant beast in the Pacific that recently started to breathe again. My work, volcanic behavior modeling, isn't glamorous, but it's necessary. I left to study lava patterns. I came back to find the ground at home had shifted in ways I never saw coming. Just before the train pulled into the station, I checked my phone. One unread message from Elena. My wife. Or at least, she used to be. Please don't ruin today. The kids don't want to see you. Stay away. That was it. No hello. No explanation. Not even a welcome home. I stared at the message a long time. I didn't reply. I just put my phone back in my coat pocket, stood up, and stepped off the train. My boots hit the platform with a finality I wasn't prepared for. No one waited for me. No banner, no kids, no Elena. Just a sharp breeze and the taste of abandonment. I walked through the crowd, unnoticed, invisible. A ghost of someone I used to be. It was almost funny. I had risked my life on unstable ridgelines and lava tubes. I'd flown through lightning storms in old planes. But nothing made my stomach drop like that text from Elena. I didn't take a cab. I walked. All the way to the house I hadn't seen in 4 years. The one I bought. The one where I tucked Luca and Livia into bed when they were still small enough to carry. The gate was closed. My name still on the mailbox, though someone had let the paint peel. I opened it, walked up the driveway, and stopped. A motorbike. New. Chrome gleaming. Definitely not Elena's. She never even liked motorcycles. I stood there for a moment, feeling the cold seep into my bones. Then I turned around and walked away. I checked into a hotel 2 blocks away. Modest. Clean. Forgettable. Just what I needed. The receptionist asked how long I'd be staying. I said I wasn't sure. That night, I sat on the edge of the hotel bed with a legal pad on my lap and a pen in hand. I started writing down details. Dates. Expenses. Things I remembered. Passwords I hadn't used in years. The pain didn't come the way I expected. No rage. No heartbreak. Just a sort of icy clarity. Like when you hear a volcano's rumble and know you've got seconds to move. You don't panic. You just react. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I started planning. The man who rides that bike? He's not just a fling. He's been here a while. Long enough to get comfortable. Long enough to forget I exist. But I do exist. And I'm back. Not for revenge. Not for theatrics. This isn't a movie. It's my life. And if Elena wants to cut me out of it, she better pray she did a thorough job. Because I'm not here to beg. I'm here to study the rupture. And eventually, when the time is right, I'll start the controlled demolition. I didn't sleep much that first night. I lay in the hotel bed staring at the ceiling, the legal pad filled with scattered names and disconnected notes. Around 3 a.m., I got up, made some instant coffee from the little packet in the room, and opened my laptop. Elena never was good at digital hygiene. Same password for everything. I tried our old anniversary date and got into her main Gmail account on the second try. A mixture of guilt and adrenaline pulsed through me, but I kept going. This wasn't spying. This was preservation. The evidence was all there, waiting for me like exposed fault lines. First, the bank statements. I saw payments to a martial arts center, recurring charges under the name Garel Dojo. Not just for Elena, but for Luca and Livia too. I cross-checked the timestamped payments with our joint credit account. Turns out, she'd been using the card I left behind, the one tied to my name and social. A quick search of the dojo led me to its owner, Ivan Garel, former regional MMA fighter. Now a self-styled sensei with a flashy website and a cult of personality built around discipline, control, and, ironically, honor. Next, her social media. Elena's public profiles had nothing but work events and filtered beach pictures. But her private account? The one she forgot I once helped her set up? There were hidden gems buried in the photo archive. I found one taken last winter. Ivan showing Luca how to break a board with a sloppy front kick, Elena clapping in the background. The caption said, "Family vibes #StrongRoots." Family. Not students. Not friends. Family. I kept digging. A week-old picture of the 4 of them at a restaurant I used to love, Trattoria Spina, the one where Livia used to order too many breadsticks and sneak them into her backpack. Ivan was in my seat. Livia leaned on him like he belonged there. I stared at the screen until the image blurred. Then I saved the photo and renamed it substitution.png. Just after 7 a.m., my phone buzzed. A message from Livia. "Hi, Dad. Mom says you're super busy with volcano stuff still. We're okay, though. Guess you moved on." It was clearly written by Elena. The phrasing was too neat, the tone too detached. My daughter doesn't talk like that. I could hear Elena's voice behind the words, feeding the lie, trying to make me feel guilty for leaving. I didn't bite. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the message to my old law school roommate, Andrea Carley, now a corporate attorney with connections in digital forensics. Within an hour, he called. You want me to audit your own accounts? I want to know what she's touched. What she's hiding. Quietly. Renzo, he hesitated. You okay? I'm not broken, I said. I'm just charting the fault lines. He didn't argue. That's why I called him. Andrea knew me before the degrees, before the documentaries, before Mount Iota. He knew that when I get quiet, it doesn't mean I've surrendered. It means I've started measuring the pressure, calculating the tremors, plotting the exact moment when everything will shift. And I had just found the epicenter. Ivan Garel wasn't just a mistake. He was a planned replacement. Physically present, financially propped up, parented in by proxy. But he wasn't legal. And that's where I had the advantage. I spent the next week in silence. Not the kind that comes with grief. The kind that comes with calculation. Every morning, I left the hotel at 6 a.m. and walked the neighborhood like a man learning a new terrain. Same route, same pace, no sudden moves. By the third day, I knew Elena and Ivan's routine better than they probably did. Elena left for the PR firm at 8:10. Ivan usually hung around the house until after 9, probably didn't open the dojo until 10. Twice a week, he left on the bike, picked up coffee from the same corner cafe, and stopped by a financial center on Via Roma. I tracked everything. Binoculars. Notepad. GPS logs. No drama. No confrontation. Just slow, surgical observation. What I found disturbed me, but not for the reasons you'd expect. The motorbike? It wasn't his. The lease was in Elena's name. The gym license renewal? Paid for using an account she opened 6 months ago, with funds siphoned from our joint savings account. Small withdrawals, spread out. Just under the radar. I followed the paper trail further. Ivan's phone bill? Covered by an auto-debit link to one of my dormant cards. A credit card I hadn't used in over a year. She must have assumed I'd never check it again. Rookie mistake. I started pulling public financial records on Ivan. My friend Andrea expedited a few searches. Within 48 hours, we confirmed what I suspected. Ivan was broke. No assets. No investments. Just a long trail of overdue notices and urgent loan applications. The guy wasn't just living off Elena. He was surviving off me. Then came the final piece. Andrea called one afternoon while I sat in the hotel lobby nursing an espresso and circling loan entries on a printout. You're going to want to see this, he said. It's a loan application from February. Joint signature required. I frowned. I haven't signed anything in 4 years. I know. That's the point. He emailed me a PDF. A scanned signature form. My name scribbled beside Elena's on a 12,000 euros personal loan to support a joint household transition. The handwriting wasn't mine. Not even close. She forged it. I stared at the screen for a long moment. My stomach stayed flat. No surge of emotion. Just confirmation. That evening, I walked into the bank branch on Via Nizza. Quiet, clean, barely staffed. I asked to speak to someone about a power of attorney request. The manager came out, polite and a little stiff. I told him who I was. He scanned the file and his expression shifted. He remembered. She tried to file a POA 2 months ago, he said. Using your credentials. But we flagged the inconsistency in your ID paperwork and rejected it. She say where I was? Sumatra, I think. Something about a volcanic zone. Of course. She had no idea I was already back in Europe. That assumption had been her greatest comfort. And now, it was my greatest weapon. I walked out of the bank into the crisp afternoon air. The weight of the city felt different now. Not oppressive. Not unwelcome. Just ripe. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was building a case. Like any good geologist, I knew. Before the eruption comes the silence. Before the lava rises, the ground swells. I had the photos. The accounts. The signatures. The surveillance logs. The motive. Ivan thought he was clever. Elena thought she was careful. But neither of them had counted on the man who mapped volcanoes for a living. Who knew how to detect pressure. And how to wait for the perfect moment to let it blow. The first sign that Elena felt the shift came one morning when she left the house 20 minutes late. That never happened. She was a creature of precision. Every handbag matched. Every heel sharp. Every departure at 8:10 on the dot. But that morning, I watched through the binoculars as she walked back into the house twice. Once to check her phone, again to open a drawer. I could tell something was off. She wasn't just forgetting things. She was checking for something. The second sign came 3 days later. Elena stopped using the front door. She started slipping out the side gate, peeking around like someone was watching. She stood longer in the driveway, staring at the motorbike. Like she was waiting for something to go wrong. I hadn't touched a thing. Not yet. But I had moved a few documents on her desk. Shifted a drawer just slightly. Enough to make her wonder. Enough to plant the seed. This wasn't rage. This was science. Ivan, of course, didn't notice. Or worse, he didn't care. When Elena started snapping at him in public, he waved her off like she was hysterical. I watched them argue near the car one morning. Her voice strained, his bored. He leaned against the bike, sipping from a to-go cup, and said something that made her flinch. He laughed. She looked humiliated. That night, I sent an anonymous tip to the city's athletic licensing bureau. Ivan's gym had never filed its renewal forms correctly. A couple of safety protocols accidentally went unmentioned. A week later, he received a warning notice. 3 more violations and he'd lose his permit. I sent another packet, this time to his insurance provider. A few highlighted statements about unauthorized students and unlisted business partners. Let the system do its work. Then I turned my attention to Elena. She worked at a boutique PR firm, small, niche, image-focused. Her boss was a former diplomat who had left politics under, let's say, cloudy circumstances. I remembered him from a news clip years ago. I also remembered Andrea saying he owed a few favors. 1 email. That's all it took. Inside the envelope I sent were 2 spreadsheets. One with Elena's account activity, the other with loan transfers linked to Ivan. I didn't explain. I didn't need to. The financial inconsistencies alone would trigger a panic response in any executive with a shaky past. 3 days later, Elena's car didn't leave the driveway. Ivan came out alone, clearly agitated, talking to himself. She emerged an hour later, hair unbrushed, eyes hollow. The fortress was trembling. I kept my distance. Watched from benches, street corners, parked cars. Never too close. Always just far enough to make her wonder. To make her feel the pressure. I didn't break in. I didn't threaten. I simply let the unknown do the work. Because fear, when properly applied, is its own form of erosion. And Elena? She was starting to crack. She double-checked the locks. Closed the curtains even in daylight. Called the school twice in one day to ask how the kids were doing. Ivan stopped staying overnight. The motorcycle vanished for a couple days. When it returned, it was dented. I never touched it. I didn't have to. This was no longer about information. It was about momentum. And I had all of it. Ivan thought he was clever, juggling image, influence, and Elena's credit cards like a circus act. But men like him always leave traces. Not just online. In people. The first was Sophia. I found her through a payment flagged on Elena's credit card bill for €100 at a boutique perfume shop that Elena never went near. The shop's website had staff photos. Sophia worked there, early 30s. I sat in the way people look when they're tired of being someone's secret. I walked in on a Tuesday afternoon, introduced myself as a customer needing a gift for a troubled woman with expensive taste. She laughed at that, genuinely. While she wrapped a sample set in gold foil, I slipped her a photo of Ivan and said quietly, I think he's hurting people. You don't have to talk to me, but maybe you should know who else he's talking to. She stiffened. That name was a wound. A day later, she texted me from a prepaid number. We met at a cafe near the river. She was nervous, jittery, but not stupid. I told her the truth. I was Elena's husband, and Ivan was living in my house. Her lips parted in shock. She thought he was single. He told her Elena was a toxic ex who wouldn't let go. Said she was unstable. Unfit. He said he was practically raising her kids, Sophia said, hands shaking. I showed her the picture of him teaching my son to break boards. That's not a stepdad, I said. That's a thief wearing someone else's shoes. Sophia blinked hard, her voice thick. He told me he wanted to start a family. The second woman, Julia, was a lawyer. I found her through LinkedIn, buried in Ivan's tagged posts from the dojo. She had once sponsored a self-defense seminar he taught. A quick records pull showed he had been named as her emergency contact in a hospital admittance form last year. That wasn't professional. That was personal. I booked a consultation under a fake name. Midway through the appointment, I handed her a folder. Inside were photos, messages, overlapping charges. She read in silence. He said Elena was crazy, she muttered. Said she was suicidal. That he was stuck helping her out of pity. My voice stayed calm. She's not suicidal. She's just a liar. Like him. Both women were smart. Both had been lied to. And neither liked being made to look stupid. By nightfall, we had a group chat. Sophia, Julia, and me. I didn't tell them what to do. I just showed them the receipts. The contradictions. The shared nights and copied messages. They took it from there. That Friday night, Elena came home to find all 3 of us on her doorstep. Sophia had called ahead, pretending to be a florist delivering a late bouquet. When Elena opened the door, she froze. Julia stepped up first. Still think he's your partner? Sophia followed. Ask him where he was 3 nights ago. I stood behind them, silent, arms crossed. Ivan came out a few seconds later, saw us, and immediately turned to run. Too late. Julia played the ace. We're recording. Elena's eyes darted between us. What is this? The truth, I said flatly. The one you tried to curate out of your perfect new life. Elena's voice rose in panic. You can't do this here. The kids. They're not here, I said. I made sure. Ivan tried to speak, but Sophia cut him off with the photo of him kissing her in the boutique storeroom. Julia showed Elena the dinner receipt, 2 entrees, 1 hotel room. You used my name, I said finally, stepping forward. You signed loans under it. You put our kids in the hands of this man. You let him live in my house while pretending I was a ghost. The front door stood open. Elena looked like a building mid-collapse. How long have you been watching us? Long enough to let you bury yourself. Inside, the lights flickered. Ivan's face was pale, cornered, defeated. I walked away, leaving the cameras rolling behind me. I didn't need to shout. The eruption had started, and it was all on record. The hardest part of any eruption isn't the lava. It's what gets buried underneath it. In the days after the confrontation, Elena stopped answering calls. Ivan vanished entirely. One of my legal contacts said he was seen emptying his dojo before dawn, probably skipping out on debts before the licensing board could close in. But none of that mattered. What mattered was Luca and Livia. They were the only part of this cracked foundation I cared to preserve. Elena knew it too. That's why she went to work quickly poisoning the well. The first text came from Luca's school account, forwarded from Elena's phone. We'd prefer if you didn't try to visit or contact the children directly. They're unsettled. They think you've abandoned them. Please don't make it worse. Then came another crafted message from Livia's number. I'm scared of you. Why didn't you come back when we needed you? The manipulation was so transparent it made my hands shake. I knew my daughter's voice. This wasn't it. This was Elena, trying to cement herself as the only stable presence. Planting lies in soft, young minds. But I had one move she couldn't counter. Presence. I called Andrea again. Asked if he knew any neutral, open-air venues with family-friendly policies and enough legal cover to prevent misunderstandings. He suggested the botanical garden near the perimeter neutral ground, with a public security office and cameras everywhere. We made it seem like a coincidence. My friend Martina, a civil litigation attorney, brought her son the same age as Luca. She contacted Elena under the pretense of a play date. Told her she wanted to meet at the garden. I stood off to the side near the hydrangea path, pacing like a tourist. A pair of sunglasses, a cap. Nothing threatening. Just a man out for a walk. When Elena arrived, she didn't see me at first. But the kids did. Luca turned first. His eyes widened. Dad? Livia gasped so hard she dropped her water bottle. I walked toward them slowly, giving them time. Not forcing anything. Hey, I said, voice low. I didn't go anywhere. I'm here. Luca ran to me first. His hug hit me like an aftershock, tight, desperate, warm. Livia came next, more cautious but no less real. You didn't forget us? She asked into my coat. Never, I said. Not for a second. They looked different. Older. Quieter. But not unreachable. Still mine. Elena saw us then. She came barreling around the corner, phone already raised like a weapon. You have no right. You can't just. Martina intercepted her. Calm, smooth, all legality. He has every right, she said. We're in a public space. He hasn't violated any order. You're welcome to stay. Elena's mouth twisted. You put them in danger. Is that what they told you? I asked, stepping between her and the kids. She didn't answer. Livia moved to my side and grabbed my hand. Mom said you didn't want us anymore. My throat clenched. I knelt down so we were eye to eye. That's not true, I said. Not even a little. I've always loved you. I've always wanted to come back. But sometimes grown-ups make really bad choices. And I needed time to fix what got broken. Luca nodded slowly. Can we see you again? I smiled through the tightness in my chest. You will. I promise. Elena was still standing there, frozen, watching her story dissolve in real time. I rose and looked at her one last time. You said they didn't want to see me, I said evenly. You were wrong. She didn't reply. I kissed the top of Livia's head, gave Luca one last hug, and stepped away. Did I want to stay? Of course. But this wasn't about me anymore. It was about letting them see for themselves who had told the truth, and who had lied. I didn't need to scream it. They could see it now, with their own eyes. A week after the garden meeting, the paperwork landed like thunder. Emergency custody petition, filed by Elena Mancini. Grounds: mental instability, erratic behavior, stalking, and endangerment. The accusations were elaborate. She claimed I'd been lurking around schools, harassing her at work, scaring the children. She included a shaky photo of me near the garden, cropped just enough to exclude the lawyer and 2 other parents nearby. The narrative painted me as a disturbed man clinging to a past he couldn't accept. What Elena didn't know was that I'd been preparing my countercase for weeks. Andrea and I had already gathered surveillance footage, timestamps, financial documents, and witness statements. The more she lied, the deeper she dug. And now we had everything we needed to bury the lie. The hearing was set for Tuesday morning. I wore a charcoal suit, the one I hadn't touched since my last university lecture. When I walked into the courtroom, Elena was already seated, back straight, hair pulled tight, wrapped in a carefully curated image of poise. Her attorney, A smirking man in a tan blazer leaned in and whispered something that made her smile. But then he saw my lawyer. Andrea Carley stepped in, briefcase in hand, calm as stone, not flashy, just lethal. The judge called the session to order. He was an older man, lean, weathered, with a clipped tone and a name I remembered, Judge Leone. I'd exposed him 12 years earlier in a published ethics review. Back then, he'd quietly resigned from a university board after a conflict of interest scandal. We hadn't spoken since. But when he saw me, he froze for a beat. Recognition flickered. Then he cleared his throat. Let's proceed. Elena's lawyer started strong. He spoke of emotional distress, instability, of children waking up in fear. He waved vague statements from a school counselor Elena had coached. He said I was disconnected from reality, obsessed with surveillance, and volatile under pressure. I said nothing. Then Andrea stood. He began with evidence of forged financial documents, loan statements in my name, unauthorized withdrawals. Then he presented the rejected power of attorney application, complete with a flagged signature and the bank's rejection notice. Next came footage from the botanical garden, clearly showing me greeting my children with no signs of conflict or aggression. And here, Andrea said, projecting a paused video frame, we see Ms. Mancini arriving in a heightened emotional state. Her husband, Mr. Mancini, steps back. The children express no distress. They asked to see him again. Elena squirmed in her seat. Her lawyer tried to object. The judge allowed it. Then came the testimony. A counselor from Luca's school, one who wasn't on Elena's side, described how Luca had cried during sessions, saying, I miss my dad. Why won't he come home? A friend of Livia's mom testified that Elena had coached the children on what to say if dad shows up. Andrea closed with this. Your Honor, my client didn't abandon his family. He was erased from it. Legally, financially, emotionally, and now physically. He returned to find his identity used, his children turned against him, and a man living in his place. That isn't a case for emergency custody. That's a case for defamation. Silence. Then the judge finally spoke. He looked at Elena. You filed false claims, he said. You committed financial misrepresentation. And you attempted to weaponize your children's safety as leverage in a personal war. He turned to me. Mr. Mancini, this court grants you shared custody, effective immediately. A full evaluation of both parties' fitness will be conducted in the next 90 days. Until then, you may have equal, supervised access to both children. Elena's jaw dropped. Her attorney looked like he wanted to crawl under the desk. The gavel came down. I stood, adjusted my coat, and walked out without a glance back. Let her sit in it. She dragged me into court to bury me in lies. But the eruption she started? It buried her instead. The judgment didn't just break Elena's legal case. It fractured the illusion she'd wrapped around herself and Ivan. I didn't hear from her for 2 days. Then I got a call from her attorney, not hers anymore, as it turned out. He was quitting the case, citing irreconcilable breakdowns in client honesty. I already knew why. The fallout had begun. Elena's boutique PR firm started quietly reassigning her accounts. Word had spread, financial irregularities, unsanctioned loans, internal audits triggered by anonymous reports. Her name was no longer on the firm's website. Her email bounced back. A colleague of hers, a woman I vaguely remembered from one of Luca's school recitals, sent me a short, careful message. She's not with us anymore. You should probably protect your kids. I already was. Meanwhile, Ivan's empire was crumbling faster. The licensing board launched a formal investigation after a second tip, this time with full evidence packets attached. Sophia and Julia, the women he lied to, both submitted sworn statements. Julia, the lawyer, even attached a memo detailing Ivan's habitual deception and predatory manipulation. The gym lost its certification. 2 minor injuries during a sparring class were suddenly back under scrutiny. Insurance coverage was revoked. Ivan tried to pivot online, live stream classes, affiliate supplements, coaching by DM. But it all came crashing down when one of his ex-clients posted a detailed thread about how he charged her for sessions that never happened and texted her late at night. Within a week, his brand was radioactive. I didn't gloat. I just watched, quietly, like I had from the beginning. Then, one evening, my phone buzzed. Elena. I let it ring. Let her call again. She did, 3 times. Then came the message. Please. I need to talk. Just us. No lawyers. Please. I stared at the screen. And I felt nothing. So I called. Picked up on the 3rd ring. She was crying. The voice she used when things slipped out of her control. I made mistakes, she whispered. I was scared. Renzo. Everything just spiraled. I stayed quiet. The firm, they're filing fraud charges. Ivan's gone. He took the bike and left while I was out. No goodbye. No note. I didn't mean for any of this. I waited, then finally spoke. You destroyed us, I said. I just filed the report. Silence. Her breath caught. like she hadn't expected me to be that cold. But I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was clean. Later that night, Andrea helped me finish the dossier. 43 pages. Attached financial statements, signed affidavits, loan histories, and video transcripts. We sent it to the Financial Crimes Investigation Division, the Family Court System, and the Office of Public Guardianship, just in case she tried to spin another tale about me and the kids. By dawn, it was out of my hands. I didn't care what happened to her. Not really. But I wanted the truth on paper. Ivan's lies were exposed. Elena's silence was shattered. And for the first time in 4 years, I wasn't the one being erased. 3 weeks later, I sat in a beige-walled room with laminated chairs and a potted ficus that hadn't been watered in months. The custody evaluator walked in, a woman in her 50s with clear eyes and a quiet voice. She introduced herself, then turned to Elena, seated across from me. We were here for the final assessment. Elena looked tired, more than tired. Her makeup couldn't hide the way her mouth pulled downward, the dull sheen of someone trying to hold together a version of herself that no longer worked. She wore a soft blue blouse, like she was trying to project calm, but her knee bounced under the table. The evaluator asked us simple questions at first. About routines, schedules, how we handled conflict. Elena answered smoothly, too smoothly. Then the woman leaned in. Tell me about Mr. Mancini's absence, she said. Elena hesitated, then let out a rehearsed sigh. He left us, she said. I don't think he ever planned to come back. He was chasing his science, playing explorer. My jaw tightened, but I didn't speak. The evaluator didn't blink. Would you say he abandoned the family? Yes, Elena replied. Emotionally, physically, all of it. I had no choice but to fill that gap. The evaluator turned to me. And you, Mr. Mancini? I left to work. A planned expedition. Elena and I agreed I'd be gone for 12 months. She stopped answering my calls after month 3. After that, I finished the job. For years, 10 countries, 27 field reports. And when you returned? She told me not to come home. Told the kids I left them. Replaced me with someone who forged my signature. I passed over a slim folder. Inside were documents the evaluator already had, but I wanted her to see them again. The timestamps. The false loan. The video from the garden. The truth. She took her time. When she finished reading, she closed the folder softly and folded her hands. I've reviewed the children's sessions, she said. Luca spoke of dreams where he's looking for his dad in the jungle. Livia kept drawing a volcano with people inside it, saying they got stuck. Neither child expressed fear of you. Quite the opposite. Elena's mouth parted slightly. Children know when they're being lied to, the evaluator said, even when they can't explain how. An hour later, we were dismissed. The report came 2 days later. Full custody awarded to Renzo Mancini. Supervised visitation for Elena. 6-month review pending compliance and psychological reevaluation. I didn't smile, but I exhaled for the first time in years. That evening, I picked up Luca and Livia from school. They ran to the car like it was the most normal thing in the world. We got pizza. We talked about homework. Livia asked if I could help her build a volcano model for science class. I nearly laughed. Only if we make it erupt. That night, while they slept, I drove across town to Ivan's old gym. He was there. Alone. Sweating, pacing, talking to himself. His empire of discipline now reduced to dust and unpaid rent. I walked in quietly. He saw me in the mirror. Tough break, I said, voice flat. He turned. Didn't speak. You're scared, I said. Not of me. Of the truth. Because I've got enough of it to ruin whatever shell of a life you're trying to rebuild. He clenched his jaw. I don't want revenge, Ivan. I want you gone. No more side texts. No more surprise visits. No more trying to play father in a house you never earned. What if I don't? He asked, forcing bravado. I took out a flash drive and set it on the bench between us. 32 gigs, I said. Texts, screenshots, money trails. You plead out and disappear, or I bring this to every ex, client, and agency who ever trusted you. He stared at it, then at me. I'll go, he said. You already did, I replied, and walked out. The next morning, I made pancakes for the kids. Luca wanted blueberries. Livia wanted extra syrup. I let them have both. We sat at the kitchen table I used to eat it alone. And this time, I wasn't just back. I was home.